Hello and welcome to this week's Walkies Talkies with your host Adam Leatherbarrow, and I'm joined by my four-legged basset hound Buddy. It's a bit of a later walk this week. Obviously, those that are parents will fully understand the problems here. Um, when you've got trying to put a overtired toddler to bed, and she just like not tired at all. Not tired at all. So you can sense the frustration in my voice as I've just left the house to walk the dog. so, but yeah, it's a struggle when they get that point because their mind is so stimulated through what's been going on throughout the day, and I've been told it doesn't get any easier when they get older. So it's yeah, enjoy the ride, people. But I think the most important thing to factor out is um, you're going to have arguments with your other half, and sometimes you just have to let it out, and then you forget about it, and you get on with it because you're a team at the end of the day. And yeah, so you have these moments, but it doesn't break you, so it's all good. Um, so yeah, so as I'm walking, buddy, I thought I'd talk about the footballing topic in the week. It's probably a bit more directed to West Ham more than anything. Probably because I'm a West Ham fan, so and it's probably the only thing that's worth talking about as a West Ham fan this week. But yeah, I mean, obviously um, the main issue that's going on at the club is Julian Lopetegui. The not so much him, but in terms of the situation that he's in, um, and the fact that West Ham have in their first 8 games, 8 games, 8 points as a point per game ratio, is very similar to the last 8 games of last season under David Moyes, which was 8 points and 8 games, which again was a point per game. So the only improvement onto that is the fact that we've conceded less goals, or we have a better goal difference in comparison to what our last 8 games were last season to the first 8 games this season. Um, but the pressure's already on. Uh, People are already pointing out that yes, he's had 8 games, but in fact he's had 10 because he had a very under par performance in the League Cup against Bournemouth, where there was a bit of controversy in the winning goal, where there was a handball in the build up to it, um, and we got an absolute demolishing at Anfield in a 5-1 defeat. Um, so yeah, so it's not been great. It's not really been great for you, but there is some sections of the fan base that are very positive in the terms of the type of football that we're playing. Some of the context that surrounds it in terms of the losses that we've had this season have been to top six teams, teams that finished in the top six last season, and those teams are in the top six again this season after 8 games. So the quality of the opposition that we're facing is better. We've had a bit of a tough fixture list in comparison to other teams, and the teams that when you look at the fixtures from last season, when we played Fulham, we lost 5-0. This season we drew 1-1 thanks to a late equaliser from Danny Ings. And we beat Crystal Palace 2-0. And we lost to Crystal Palace 5-2 last season. So there is an improvement in those sort of games. But one of the big factors was, in my head, that we lose 12 games a season. That'll be twice to the top six teams. And last season we actually beat Spurs 2-1, but this season we actually fell to a 4-1 defeat, which losing to Spurs is never nice. They can try to admit that West Ham and Spurs, there's no rivalry, there's no hatred, um, there's nothing in that. They don't really care about us, little old West Ham. But the final result, the 4-1, and the celebrations in the Tottenham Hotspur stand on the concourse is kind of said a different story. So I'll leave that to other people's perception as to whether Spurs think West Ham are worth beating. Um, Maybe because some of the Spurs fans don't like it when West Ham do beat Spurs, that West Ham don't shut up about it, and that's part of the enjoyment of beating them. Um, but yeah. Again, that's I'll touch on that in this week's podcast with Rob and Callum. But I think in terms of Julian Lopetegui, I think that maybe time is up for him. Um, he's been in the job for 5 months. He was appointed back in middle of May. He's had an opportunity to work with the squad, to get training methods up to scratch. He's had a pre-season where the only win of that season come against the Dagenham Redbridge side thanks to an Andy Irving goal in a 1-0 win. When your only win comes against a Conference League side or National League side nowadays, um, there are some sort of worrying signs there. I can't deny that. And the two Premier League teams that we faced in America, we lost 3-1 twice, and that was the Wolves and Crystal Palace. So yeah, I'm a bit worried. I'm not so much like when I suggested in the Premier League fixture predictions in that episode 1. I predicted West Ham to finish fourth. That was just purely because of the transfer window that we had. But in terms of managerial sackings, I actually said Julian Lopetegui will probably be the first manager to be sacked from the Premier League. Um, and as laughable as that sounded, of me predicting West Ham to get Champions League place, but our manager would also get sacked, it was a balanced prediction, because if West Ham do get Champions League, then Lopetegui's done a good job. But if Lopetegui gets sacked, then there's obviously alarm bells, and obviously that is what the real prediction was in my head, that we appointed the wrong coach at the for the project. I'm not entirely convinced with his style of play. It wasn't in the beginning, but when the new person has been backed, you obviously give your support straight away, and it's up to them to retain it. And I think, although some fans point out the positives, I do think he's just not the right appointment. Lopetegui is a lovely fella, lovely bloke, kind person. For what he done for the West Ham young West Ham fan that had a terminal illness, and invited him to the training ground um, to have a one-to-one session with the team and have pictures done. And apparently, he had a picture with the child, and it's on his desk. And sadly, that child had passed away a few weeks later. So he's got a very kind heart, very kind soul. But I just think, from a managerial sense, I just don't think he's best suited for the team, and especially the way that we want to play. I mean, he's mainly operates as a 4-1-4-1 formation. I think with the players that we've got, I think we're better suited for playing 3 at the back or 5 at the back. With 3 at the back with wing backs, that sort of level, and having a progressive ball carrying defender that can link up with the midfield, rather than having a CDM midfielder, a defensive midfielder, sorry, in someone like Alvarez or Rodriguez, that drop back. I just think it's quite negative in that sort of build up, because then you're leaving a hole rather than progressing into it. But that's my sort of feelings on it. I think we need to. I do think Lopetegui's time is up. I do think that West Ham need to go out and get a coach that suits the style of play. Um, I just, again, it's just same old West Ham, isn't it? All for all for the promise. And then there's always a hurdle that still needs to be jumped, and things don't really necessarily go to plan. I know some fans out there, or some pundits, more so TalkSport, saying that be careful what you wish for. Do you want David Moyes back? And the answer is, we have been careful what we wished for. We wanted for something better. I think this type of football, regardless of the results, is slightly better. But I think it's a results-based business, so you need to be in that mind. You've got to have the coach that can deliver. West Ham are a 1.5 points per game team, and we should be looking to get to 1.75 or even 2 points per game to get us where we want to be back in Europe. At the minute, a point per game is relegation form, and it's just not good enough. Sadly, it's just not good enough. Um, but yeah, that's my general feeling. I do think there is changes needed. Change is good. I do think, and I believe that our ownership should swallow it, move him on, have a mutual agreement, and then just look forward to the next coach that can get the best out of the squad. Because the way this West Ham United are structured now, it's more so the fact that we're signing players for the club rather than the the coach or manager at the time signing players that suit him. And I think that is an infrastructure that we needed to do. There's been too many a time when we've had managers in the past go out and spend hundreds or 50 to £100 million on buying the players that suit their style of play, and then when the results don't come off, um, we're left with a squad that can only play one way, and then we need a miracle worker to come in and fix it. I mean, David Moyes done it twice, and he earned his stripes, and um, he deserves to be in that position to get whatever player he wanted, and he overachieved. He massively overachieved with that squad, and he gave us back-to-back European campaigns and a European trophy because of it. I mean, I fully respect David Moyes. I never disliked him. Um, I never really enjoyed the type of football, but again, it's a results-based business, and he's probably one of the best Premier League managers that have ever graced the league. Really, when you think about it, in terms of the amount of games he's managed, the clubs that he's managed, the achievements he got. I mean, he got Everton to qualify for Champions League, but the playoff round. But unfortunately, they got knocked out to Villarreal. Um, yeah, I just think he is a good manager, but the club has moved on from that style of manager now, and that's it. You just got to keep up with evolution. Otherwise, you get left behind. I mean, you look at teams like Brighton; they've put that structure in place. I mean, it's a fantastic structure. They get good coaches in. Good coaches in. They go out and they get results. They perform. They're a top 10 side now, top 10 Premier League side. When you think of their days of being at the Withdean Stadium, uh, you know, going into playoffs in the old fourth division, um, it's they've developed magnificently, but that's down to their structure behind the scenes, and they've got a plug and play sort of effect where they could put any coach in there that plays a certain way, and it works. We've seen it with obviously Chris Houghton was the foundation of that, getting them promoted, getting them steady, and then they got Graham Potter in, who was at Osterlands in Norway, but then went to Swansea after 1 year, and gave him the platform to do well, and he done really well, which earned him the Chelsea job. Um, and then post Potter, there was Roberto De Zerbi, who I was a fan of when he was manager of Sassuolo in Italy. He left after being linked with big jobs like Man United and AC Milan and Juventus. But he left by mutual consent, and he ended up going to Marseille, where he's working wonders there. And now they've got this new guy, this new young German guy. His name's gone, but people know who I'm talking about. 31 years of age, some holy manager who got them promoted to the Bundesliga, and he stepped up and he's got Brighton and Hove Albion fifth in the Premier League, beating Man United beating Spurs, drawing with Arsenal, beating Newcastle. Guys getting results. That's down to the structure. And West Ham structure is building. It's a new way of playing, but they've appointed the wrong person at the helm. So thank you, J-Lo. I do appreciate what you've done. Um, but we need to make a change now to save our season to try and get European football. We've already been knocked out of one competition. Don't really want to go half-assed into a Premier League campaign with 30 games left, and I don't really want to get knocked out of the FA Cup early. That's just how I feel. But yeah, no, thanks for listening to this episode of Walkies Talkies. Um, I'm going to try and go back into the house now and see whether the storm has calmed, and hopefully I can crack open a beer, pour my wife a nice glass of wine, and just take a big deep breath. Cheers, guys. See you soon.